just going to go ahead and start. So welcome to my 5-day Facebook challenge. I'm definitely stepping out of my comfort zone here. My name's India Kern, and this is all new to me. We are on Zoom, but streaming live on Facebook. And today's theme, well, actually the whole week has been life by design because, we must create our extraordinary life. It doesn't just happen. And so by doing that, we have to strategize and identify what we intend to create. But a lot of times we have roadblocks. And my guest today is an expert at identifying roadblocks, but also blind spots that we may have. And his name is Scott Silverman. And Scott, what's your middle name? Scott H. Silverman?
We use the
Yeah, because there's another one, right? And he's going to share with us today about blind spots. And he's a great friend of mine as well. And I've actually used him as a coach. So I have so much respect for Scott. So welcome to the program. Welcome to the Facebook Live Challenge today, Scott. I didn't even say this, but he's a family navigator and a crisis coach. So tell us, Scott, what that entails. What do you do as a crisis coach and family navigator?
Yeah, just so everyone knows, and I've been watching India this week with her new launch, and I'm not the fitness guy, clearly, and I'm not the young workout guy either. So, and it's interesting, you mentioned roadblock. One of the things that's fascinating about roadblocks is sometimes when you're just moving down the road, there's a sign that says detour or roadblock ahead or do not enter. And we miss it because we're so busy trying to figure out what it is we don't know how to figure out, but we think we need to figure it out before we keep going. I just had that experience today, driving somewhere and the sign says do not enter. I'm unfortunately not a conventional person, so I entered where I shouldn't, but had I not, I would have had to take a 3-mile detour. But
Right.
It was early enough and there wasn't much traffic, so I felt pretty safe. So what I do as a crisis coach and family navigator is I really try to look to the family to when they call me. It's usually around substance abuse or addiction or behavioral health issues, or sometimes just inappropriate behavior, self-medication, people acting out. And that could be couples, it could be kids, it could be your parents, it could be your siblings, it could be your coworkers, it could be your neighbors. And what I do is just try to listen to what it is that they are sharing and then help them better understand what some of the options and opportunities might look like. And there's always options and opportunities. And as I like to say in my work, there's always hope. There's always help as well.
Right. So what are some typical things that you see that holding back people that they can't see for themselves?
Well, generally, especially with the issue with self-medication, the allergy to addiction, and mood-altering chemicals, and right now, in life this year, because of what's happened this last 12 months with COVID, the alcohol consumption's up 60%. So, what I normally see is happening is, first of all, it's a disease of denial. And it's a family disease. So everyone's impacted by it in a negative way. The consumer, the substance abuser, if you will, they're in their own self-medicating mode, and they're basically, on their own kind of trajectory. Then the rest of the family is reacting to what's going on around them. And generally it's in a way that's not helpful. And it doesn't really, it's not necessarily hurtful, but it's not helpful or healthful, simply because the family doesn't understand what to do. And I liken it to diabetes. I call the disease of addiction, or if you will, the allergy to, when I drank, I got in trouble. I mean, it's Robert Downey Jr. I think his favorite quote is, every time he did cocaine, he broke out in handcuffs. So what happens, when we do goofy things under the influence, over time, that activity will get us into some sort of trouble, usually jails, institutions, or death. So what I try to do is really encourage families to seek expertise, go after some help. Back to diabetes. Diabetes is the same thing. Some people have it, some people don't. But when someone is not feeling well, we take them to the doctor. We go to urgent care, maybe not as quickly today, or we go to the emergency department if they're really ill, and we let a professional do an assessment, do an intake, and figure out what's going on. And then they make recommendations. And the interesting part of what happens with people that are, suffering from mood altering substances, we don't see it the same way. for some reason, we still see it as a moral failing, and the stigma around it is still really complicated. And I think it's important that families know that, you're not trained for this.
Mhm.
I am. And there are,
Right.
I'm not a clinician, but there's clinicians, there's psychiatrists, there's medical personnel, there's treatment centers, there's lots of help, and there's lots of hope. So what I tell families is, don't try to fix this yourself. The odds are you don't know how. And even worse, your child, your loved one is going to react in a negative way rather than embracing the help that you think you're giving them, because you're going to do things you normally would do as a parent. Love your
Right.
child to wellness, but sometimes telling a kid no is a trigger. Telling a child you shouldn't do that is a trigger. I mean, I hear those words as an adult. I don't, because I don't really deal well with that. If you were to
Right.
tell me today, India, Scott, we don't want you anymore, that would really hurt. I wouldn't know how to process that, even though I could have maybe slept in, or maybe gone for a walk, or maybe gone to Krispy Kreme's and got some donuts, because I know you're on a cleanse. So I would enjoy it even more knowing that you're probably, and you said you quit coffee, right? So you're
I
detoxing from
did.
coffee.
I'm detoxing. Monday was horrible.
Yeah,
Three hours of fog. Yeah.
yeah, 3 days ago, your hair was curly and you were a foot taller. Look at you now. So, but good for you, because those kind of systemic changes
Yeah.
are the commitments that we need to do. And so far, the couple of days I've seen you doing this, you're working with experts that are helping support you, and
Right.
you as a coach and your expertise. And that's really what life-changing events are about, and creating systemic change is you get support, you ask for help,
Right.
and you move in a different direction. But by having someone hold your hand, it does nothing but help, because when
Right.
you're talking to another human being, you're doing something with somebody. And when you try to do it on
Mhm.
your own, we make excuses. And the thing
Mhm.
applies to the work that I do.
Well, that brings up a funny story. So the first time I did this cleanse, it was about, I guess it was a year and a half ago. And there's no alcohol, there's no caffeine. Oh, sorry. I was looking at a old, it's delayed. Sorry. So anyway, I'm off all this alcohol, red meat, caffeine. And what I've noticed, I got called out by my husband actually. He said, um, the reason we actually did the cleanse is because he said, you have a glass of wine every night. And I was like, well, so I'm not an alcoholic. That's just one glass of wine. He's like, but the fact that you're doing it every day, um, it's becoming quite a habit. I'm like, I mean, so what? I just like it. And so he challenged me. He's like, why don't you just do the cleanse and see if you can do it? Well, I did it. And what I realized, it was that major shift and change that I was numbing, even though it was one glass of wine, I was numbing every night to take the edge off, right? And so what happened, it put this haze, this fog. So I wasn't as clear minded to make decisions. I also was showing my kids a bad habit. And so huge shift of nothing to one glass every day made me realize I don't need it. And actually, it's hurting me. And it's not that I'm dependent on it, but I was putting a fog over my life. And so now I'm so much more intentional. Like if I have a glass of wine, it's like on the weekends, it's with a nice steak that I'm not on right now. But you know, even someone that doesn't have a problem can fall into this habitual routine that's not good for you.
Well,
And
you
so
imagine if you had, those 1 pound chocolate bars from Trader Joe's every night. I mean, chocolate is the same kind of thing. You can get you, but it's obviously not as bad for you. But what happens? It'll be interesting, because the next couple of days, based on your day count that I heard you say, I can hear Bill saying now in the back of his head, maybe we should get that glass of wine back in her face, because but once you get past that, and your body
yeah,
understands that it's not going to be singing anymore. It'll go through its changes and may not be real comfortable. But once that
yeah,
dependency, because to your point, even though And I wouldn't say that a glass of wine is considered alcohol over abuse or abuse
Right.
level, but if the body is counting on it and it's not there, psychologically there's a dependency to go, and there's nothing wrong. There are studies that show a glass of wine a day, can help the overall, well-being of the system, and it's great
Mhm.
for, your digestive tract. I mean, the Europeans have been saying that for decades. So but I think the fact that you're making the challenge and challenging your
Mhm.
body, because
Yeah.
as it's interesting too, over time, we do certain things like that. Our tolerance shifts, our ability to process it shifts. And, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with enjoying yourself. I don't do that anymore. I'm allergic to it. And
Right.
I never, ever, ever had a glass of wine,
Right.
never had one glass of anything. So for me, I just don't have it in my life. And my big
Mhm.
thing, and I was inspired by your thoughts and watching your trainer. I mean, I wasn't motivated, I was inspired. But that's the big thing, that I'm compulsive, obsessive, addicted with everything except exercise. And one of
Mhm.
my dreams, I didn't want to make it a goal, or
Mhm.
a New Year's resolution, is this year is to work on that. And no, I'm not coming down to work out with you. And no, I'm not going surfing. But it's front of mind now. And when I say it out loud in front of others, it's a way of kind of reinforcing the idea that it can't hurt me, it won't hurt me. And when I talk to other people about it, I've never heard anybody say, oh, I took a long walk, I got so sad after walking.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I lost your, hold on one second, Scott. I lost your audio. Let me just take these out and see if that helps. One
Yep, yep.
second. Uh,
Well,
okay.
if I'm not talking, you won't hear audio, but I'm talking now, so let me see if you can hear me.
I
So
can hear you now. It looks like we still are on Facebook. Okay. Like I said, this is all a challenge for me today, but I'm so glad we did it. So let's see. I want to talk about one more thing before we wrap it up, and that is denial, because it's a powerful thing. And actually, while you were saying, um, the parents, enable, why can't we see what you can see? Because I've also done that in my family life. I couldn't see at the moment what everyone else around me could see. So let's talk about denial. How does it work? And how do you point out the blind spots to people when it comes to like denial about their child?
right. Well, I think families see it, but they don't know how to interpret it. And I think when they see it and they try to take action on it, and if they take that action without doing it with the right tools, example, you're at the gym. I mean, if you go up to a certain cardio machine and you've never been on it and no one's ever shown you how to do it, the odds are you may end up hurting yourself and then push yourself out of that envelope of working on that machine, which could end up being one of the best things for your knees, your hips, your head, your heart. So having that kind of training, and that's where coaching really comes in. And the term coach has been overused for many years, and that's why I like Family Navigator now, because really what I'm doing is I'm really helping the family navigate. And to answer your specific question about denial, first of all, my opinion with this disease of addiction, that denial is one of the parts of the disease, which means it's organic. It's in the body already. It isn't a conscious thought. It's just something that happens. And when someone sees someone they care about, or they see someone who's acting inappropriately, they're going to take certain actions and react to it a certain way. And what happens is when they do that, it's usually not very engaging. It's usually out of fear. It's usually out of frustration. And it's usually out of, I better get in there and do something. Otherwise, things are going to get worse. But
Mhm.
it's almost like when your car stops running,
Right.
you can't get out of your car, get underneath it, and start looking around if you've never been there before. That's why getting the help, asking for help. I need help. Three of the hardest words, I think, in the English language,
Right.
and saying it out loud. And that's where, what I tell families is, look, I can tell your child the same thing you're telling them. The difference is I'm not family. And
Mhm.
not only can I tell them the same thing, but they're not going to hear it the same way if I'm in the conversation. So that's why getting that third party, whether it's a person who's going to help you train for a triathlon, or it's someone's going to teach you about self-care, or how to, eat nutritiously, or how to take better care of yourself. Or look, my kids, they get their eyebrows done and their hair done and their nails done. And my attitude, why can't you do that yourself? Well, Dad, we don't argue about it anymore because I'm not stuck on stupid anymore. And the same thing like if you're remodeling your house. Yeah, you can go on YouTube and figure out how to tear a wall out and redo a bathroom, but why not bring the right person in with the right skill sets? And that's kind of a basic example, but that's really what I talk to people about is if this is something you don't know about. And I'll give you an example. I had a mother call me. She was a single mom, 4 children. The kids have all been through rehab, all 3 of them.
Wow.
And then the 4th is now in trouble. So the mom calls me. She says, I've had your name for about a year now. I heard about what you do. And what I don't understand is the youngest has watched all of their siblings go through the addiction issue, have the problems. 2 of them got arrested. 1 did a little county jail time. Why wouldn't they learn from that behavior? Well, if they truly have this disease, it's like diabetes again. They didn't make a conscious decision to do something to feel miserable or make your life miserable. They have this disease. Their integrator in their brain does not help them make the right decision. And when it comes to something mood altering, we do it because it makes us either feel better, or I like to say it numbs us.
Right.
It's like anesthesia. And you can't, and if somebody have underlying issues, depression, anxiety, sleep deprivation, relationship problem, addicted to whatever, you can't deal with that while they're under the influence of something mood altering. Hence, getting to an expert, getting them assessed, talking about getting the support to them that they really need. And then you can work on all the rest of the stuff that needs to be done with life, relationships, job retention, finding ways to practice self-care, getting new tools on what's best for you and your family. And that can't be done when someone's under the influence because they're not going to participate normally. And I'll bet, and I want to come back and hear from you in a couple of weeks, just with the changes that it sounds like you've made, you're going to be seeing everything through your same lenses, but I got a sense it's going to look a lot different.
Right. And I did it on purpose, right? Well, as I'm challenging myself to do all these things where I have to get out of my comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And, I've done it before. And what I have noticed is that I see clearer. It's not that I was really using it as a numbing agent, but it really did numb my faculties to the point where I probably should have responded differently to a child, or I don't want to show my children that I need a drink every night. That was really the biggest aha moment. I don't need that. I don't want them to think that that's what they need to do. And so anyway, that's why I did it before, and I'm doing it again. And it's just a reset. I like to reset and challenge myself and stretch myself. And that's what I'm doing right now, even on this call. But so before we end, I just love what you've talked about, and how that if you need help, it's okay to have a guide, like you said, the hardest words, I need help. But if you need it, if you have blind spots, if you need someone to help you see a new perspective, call Scott, or,
Sure.
contact me. But it's okay to have that guide. And I've used Scott. I have a coach as well. So there's nothing wrong with having a coach, a guide, a family navigator. I was trying to actually come up with a new term for coach myself. And I was like, what could I do? So I'm still trying to brainstorm. Difference maker, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm still working on that. But Scott, I want to thank you so much for being open to do this Facebook Live challenge, day 3. And I find your information so helpful. And anyone that needs navigating a family crisis, contact Scott. Scott, in fact, do you want to give him your number? You always do that.
Yep. My phone number is on the screen, but still it's to make it easy, 619-993-2738, 619-993-2738, or just Google me, Scott H. Silverman, and put the H in there, because the guy that doesn't have the H, and he's the one in Japan, he gets my stuff all the time. He goes, you got to change your name, brother. I said, no, I can't. I'm too old to do that now. So, and please call, or text me. And if I can't help you, I will find ways to help you get help, because there is always a way to do that. And back to your point about denial, you just described it. Trying to do everything the way you think you're supposed to, and it doesn't come out the way you think, It's simply because you may not understand how to do it. And if you don't have a roadmap and you're trying to go to a place you've never been, you're going to do a lot of driving around in circles. And there's no reason for that. Life's too short. Ask for help. It's really not that hard. Plus, once you pass that fear barrier, that fear roadblock, it feels a lot better knowing that you're now past that roadblock, because that's all it really is. It's a roadblock and you can get past it. There is hope and help.
All right. Well, thank you for being my guest. And so tomorrow, just to announce, I'm doing my last Facebook Live with an interview, and it's going to be with Eric Lofholm, who is my business coach, and he is just a ball of energy. So you will get great content. And then I'm ending everything on Friday with a webinar, Life by Design. So that's what this whole theme of this week has been, that extraordinary life doesn't happen by chance. We must create it. So that's why I'm doing this. So join me on the webinar on Friday. I will have the link in the notes. And so be sure to register. And I'm going to also try to put it up on Facebook Live as well. So we'll see if that works. So again, thanks, Scott, for being here. I really appreciate your time and just your wisdom. You're a great friend and a great expert guide that I've used as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And let Bill know that I'm praying for him. Okay.
Okay. I will. All right.
I can't imagine, with all of us, hunkered down at home, it's unusual for my wife and I, but, just tell him I know that, if he needs to, he can call me. You don't have to do change alone, but congratulations on all this and your life-changing events you're doing and taking care of yourself and renewing your own faith and your own commitment to help others. So I think that's wonderful what you do. And I really appreciate being a part of it.
Well, thank you, Scott. You have an excellent day. And thank you everyone for watching. See you tomorrow.